If this is one of those days, I'm really glad you're here. This is Collaborate, where joy becomes your foundation. Not the loud kind of joy, but the kind you build, piece by piece, after life changes everything. I'm Francene, and I'm walking this with you. Last time, we opened Season 2 with a question. What if the person you're searching for isn't missing? What if there's less to figure out than we think and more to remember? Today, we're going one layer deeper because before we can fully remember who we are, we may need to notice who life asked us to become. Sometimes life changes us quietly. A responsibility shows up. A loss changes the room. Someone needs us. Something has to be handled. And before we even realize it, we're carrying a role we never remember choosing. And you might already know what yours is. So today's question is this: who decided who you had to become? When I was little, before life got heavy, I remember being happy. I remember singing, dancing everywhere I went, playing the piano, asking what probably felt like millions of questions. I loved making things. If I could find it, I could probably turn it into something. I smiled a lot. I loved people, and I loved making them smile. That was me, a girl full of music, questions, creativity, and joy. Part of that joy came from my dad. He was music. He was love. He was the parent who made me feel wanted. Then, my dad died. And life asked something different from me. People sometimes ask when I decided to become the responsible one. The truth is, I don't remember deciding. I just remember doing what was expected of me. There was laundry to wash, meals to figure out, a house to clean, 3 younger siblings who needed someone home after school. So I came home. I cooked with whatever we had. I cleaned. I helped care for my sisters and my little brother. I wasn't trying to be extraordinary. I was just trying to get through the day. And maybe that's one of the quietest ways life chooses us. It doesn't always announce itself. It doesn't always say, "This is the role you'll carry now." Sometimes the role simply becomes normal. The need becomes louder than the person you were. Looking back, I realized I became the caretaker long before I had words for it. I was helping take care of my younger sister when I was 4 or 5 years old. Then another sister came along, and my little brother. After my dad died, there was simply more to do. More responsibility, more expectations, more reasons to stay alert. No one sat me down and asked, "Is this a role you'd like to have?" Life simply handed it to me, and I carried it for years. And when you carry something long enough, it can start to feel like the identity, not a role, not a survival skill, just who you are. When I was growing up, I remember watching families in movies and wondering if that was real. Did families really hug like that? Did parents really say, "I'm proud of you"? Were there homes where people were happy just because someone walked through the door? I didn't know, but I wanted that. I wanted hugs. I wanted compliments. I wanted someone to tell me they were proud of me. I wanted someone who was simply happy that I was there. And maybe most of all, I wanted someone to take care of me. Even just once. To not be the one watching everything. Not be the one holding everything together. Not be the one everyone depended on. Not because I didn't love taking care of others, but because somewhere inside, I was still a little girl who needed to be cared for too. So I found little places to go inside my imagination. I would walk the dirt roads by our house, making up songs and singing them loudly with no care in the world. I would lie in the fields, watching the clouds float by, trying to figure out what shapes they were making. I would write. I would create. I would make up board games for my siblings. I would write plays for us to perform. I didn't know it then, but I think I was doing more than escaping. I was reminding myself that life could still hold joy, that imagination could still open a door, that even in a house where I had to grow up too fast, there was still a part of me looking for happy. One of the places that did feel safe was with my aunt, my dad's older sister. On Sundays, she would pick us up, and she would sing with us, and she made the most amazing homemade pancakes. Those days felt different. There was music, there was warmth, there was food made with care. There was a feeling that maybe, for a little while, we could just be kids. I think sometimes the smallest moments of safety stay with us because they remind us what our hearts were looking for. But most days, I wasn't thinking about what my heart needed. I was thinking about what had to be done. Somewhere along the way, I became the caretaker, the responsible one, the one who figured things out, the one who watched the room, the one who tried not to make things worse. I became the one who kept going. And when you become that person young, it doesn't always feel like a role. It feels like who you are. There are things people might describe about me today that started as survival skills. Being easygoing, being generous, being helpful, being able to read the room, making jokes when things feel tense, trying to keep the peace, doing things perfectly so no one has a reason to be upset, not asking for help, being self-reliant. And I want to be clear, not all of those things are bad. Some of them help me survive. Some of them help me become compassionate. Some of them help me see people. But a survival skill and a personality trait are not always the same thing. Some of the things people praise in you might have started as ways you stayed safe. For a long time, falling apart didn't feel like an option. There was too much to do. Too many people depending on me. Too much that needed handling. So I learned how to keep moving. I learned how to put feelings somewhere else. I learned how to be okay enough to get through the day. And maybe you've done that too. Maybe you've been praised for being strong, when really, you are just surviving. Many people have said, I don't know how you do it. And maybe you didn't know either. You just did. Because life needed you to. I think that's one of the quietest ways life changes us. Not always through one big moment. Sometimes through repeated expectations, repeated responsibilities, repeated disappointments, repeated silence. Over time, you become the person life keeps asking you to be. And eventually, you forget to ask whether that role is all of you. But maybe part of you has already started to question it. So this episode isn't really about blaming the past. It isn't about blaming the people who couldn't give us what we needed. It's about noticing, gently, honestly. What did life ask you to become before you had the chance to choose? Were you the caretaker, the peacekeeper, the strong one, the quiet one, the fixer, the one who made everyone laugh so no one would notice how scared you were? The one who never needed anything because needing something didn't feel safe. If any of that feels familiar, I want you to know something. That role may have helped you survive, but it is not the whole story of who you are. I don't think I understood that until much later in life. For years, I thought I was just responsible, just independent, just helpful, just someone who handled things. But slowly, I began to see something different. I didn't choose all of that. some of it was chosen for me. Not because I was weak, not because I failed, not because something was wrong with me, because I was a child trying to live inside a life that needed too much from me. And that realization changed something. Because if I didn't choose all of those roles, then maybe I could begin choosing which ones I still wanted to carry. I am still a caretaker in many ways. I still care deeply. I still notice people. I still want to help. That part of me is real. But I'm learning that caring for others doesn't have to mean disappearing from myself. I'm learning that being responsible doesn't mean I have to carry everything. I'm learning that peace doesn't have to come from avoiding conflict at all costs. And I'm learning that asking for help doesn't mean I've failed. It means I'm human. Sometimes I think about 11-year-old Francene. I think she would be surprised by me now. Surprised that I teach people how to communicate. Surprised that I help people build confidence. Surprised that I have a podcast. And maybe most of all, surprised that I'm not waiting for permission anymore. But if I could sit beside her, I think my heart would break a little too. Because I know how long it will take her to find her voice. I know how many choices she'll make out of desperation instead of what she truly wants. And I know how many years she'll spend believing she has to earn the right to be loved. But I would also be proud of her. So proud. Because she never gave up. She kept finding the happy, even in the ick. She kept looking for joy. She kept making people smile. She kept helping whoever she could help. She became a different kind of mother than the one she knew. She carried so much and still stayed soft enough to care. That matters. Maybe there's a younger version of you who had to become something too soon. Maybe life handed you responsibilities before it handed you choices. Maybe you became dependable, capable, funny, quiet, perfect, invincible, strong. Maybe you learn not to need too much, not to ask too many questions, not to take up too much space. And maybe, just maybe, some of the things you've been judging yourself for were once ways you protected yourself. I hope you can hold that part of yourself with a little more compassion today. Not because everything that happened was okay, but because you were doing the best you could with what you had inside a life you didn't always get to choose. And here's where joy begins to matter again. Because joy isn't just something we find after grief. Sometimes joy begins when we realize we are allowed to choose now. Maybe not everything, maybe not all at once, but something. A boundary, a breath, a softer way of speaking to yourself, letting a message sit unanswered, saying not today without explaining, choosing rest, even when things aren't finished. A moment of asking, what do I actually want? That question can feel small, but for someone who spent a lifetime being what everyone else needed, it can be a beginning. Maybe life chose some things for you. Maybe it had to. Maybe you became who you needed to become to survive what you were handed. But the role you were given is not the only person you've ever been. And it is not the only person you are allowed to become. So today, I want to leave you with a question. What role did life hand you before you were ready to choose? And another one. Does that role still fit? And you don't have to know the answer today. Just today, is there one piece of it you are ready to loosen your grip on? If it feels heavy every time you carry it, that might be your answer. No pressure, no fixing, no forcing. Just notice. Because trusting yourself sometimes begins by realizing you finally get a choice. If this is one of those days, I'm really glad you were here. Next time, we'll talk about the cost of choosing yourself, the boundaries, the leaving, the courage it takes to protect your peace, even when people don't understand. Until then, remember this. Maybe nothing was ever wrong with you. Maybe you became what life needed you to be. And maybe now you get to begin asking what you need for yourself. We'll keep exploring all of it together. We'll keep walking together, one conversation at a time. I see you. If you're rebuilding one piece at a time, follow Collaborate wherever you listen to podcasts and be part of the conversations ahead.